What I told you, cutter.
People seen it, but they just don't know. People seen it, but they just don't know. People,
Let's go.
people seen it, but they just don't know. People seen it, but they just don't know.
Hi, welcome to Boston and National Sports Day 1. I'm your host, Blake Devine, and right now we're enjoying our first day in Boston. I'm here with Jake Liker and Noah Tagorda, and we have some special guests today. Guys, why don't you introduce yourself, and what are your specialties in just the sports broadcasting realm?
I'm Ryan Vallon. I'm from the Boston area, and I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but my knowledge of expertise would be hockey.
Okay, well, next.
And I am Greg Spaeth from the Minneapolis area, and I'm a baseball fanatic, mostly for the Twins and Rockies, but I do watch a lot of baseball, so.
Yeah, as you can see, guys, we've got a lot of different rounds of sports in both areas. Noah, obviously, from Chicago, me and Jake, both from California and LA, but we have a very vastly diverse cast of people today, and we're going to get started on, NFL? Are we going there?
Yeah, we're talking about the NFL.
Yeah, first off, let's announce the number to call in today for our show really quickly here. I'm going to call it in.
Okay.
No, why don't you?
We're going to announce the numbers. Get
your lottery tickets out. Okay. The number to call will be 224-563-8444. Again, that is 224-563-8444. That will be in the comment section below, just in case you weren't here in time. Also, I think we probably should share Twitter information if you want more followers. Or Facebook. We'll start with Blake and I's show, Blake and Noah, LA to Chicago. You can find that on Facebook. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, but honestly, it's better to follow us on to like us on Facebook. We've got 370 something.
Yeah, our goal is 500, so we're just gonna put that one out there and see what happens. And Jake has his Facebook page as well.
Yeah, please follow me, not in real life, but on Twitter. Really appreciate that. At Jake_Liker for Instagram, at Jake Liker for Twitter. Don't friend me on Facebook, no offense, unless you're my friend. My show is, of course, Rookies Roundup. We're coming up on a 1-year anniversary, I think. Like that on Facebook. Like me and Noah's show.
Kicking it
with Jake and Noah. What are we kicking? You'll have to find out. And the showdown. Me and Noah sort of battled out, and Carl Mogline from Oregon decides who wins. It's like PTI, but with actual scoring. So yeah, I think I'm done with the shameless self-promotion. Oh, follow Rookies Roundup on Twitter as well.
Okay, well, there we go. All of our self-promoting is now over. Now we're going to start off with the NFL. And first off, guys, Chris Kluwe, the former Vikings punter who's had a lot to say in both social media and just talking about different various things that get people hyped up. So, guys, we'll start off with Jake, who's very, very well with his NFL knowledge. Jake, why don't you start it off?
Well, Kluwe, of course, a former Viking. If you're sort of just new to the story, you don't really know much about him. No longer a punter in the league. He's also a former UCLA Bruin. He was a very vocal activist in the gay rights area, the gay rights arena, if you will. And he was dropped from the team a few months ago. And on a Deadspin article, he revealed that it was because his coaches and his GM did not like him with his activism. He called them anti-gay. What happened later was that he called out special teams coach Mike Prefer for making homophobic comments and calling for his removal after he was dropped from the team, and said that he was dropped from the team because of his activism and was discouraged to do so. The headline of that Deadspin article was, "I was fired by 2 bigots and a coward." Of course, he wrote this on his own, and now things have sort of spiraled out of control. The Minnesota Vikings have released their report and said that Prefer will be suspended for 3 games because of his comments. But the Vikings organization, it was interesting. They faced this head on and wasn't afraid to. They weren't afraid to hide this. What they went and said was that at the end of the day, yes, they were worried that the activism would be a distraction, but that's not why he was cut. It has nothing to do with it. They were worried there was a distraction. It was the manner of how serious his activism was, and not what it was. They are very openly gay. Ziggy Wilf, I believe, has the owner of the Vikings is a gay brother. They don't have a problem. The Vikings say they don't have a problem with homophobia, but that they're okay with it. That they are okay with with cutting Kluwe, and it has nothing to do with this. And Kluwe, always outspoken, struck back on Twitter. Do you have those Twitter?
It's not so much striking back, but first of all, he's trying to be, like a representative for the gay community.
He's really not. He's not happy about this at all. He thinks like just sweeping things under the rug.
And to be honest, we all know that they probably did cut him because of certain comments that were made. And even if they say that it still looks bad for them to a certain extent, to be honest, like he's really not helping himself much because he's gone out on Twitter saying things like, "Ooh, shall we talk about the time two very well-known Vikings players?" This is quoting, "Were caught in a compromising situation with an underage girl." Bet you didn't hear that one in the news. We can do this all day, Vikings. Special team hears everything. And over half the team did it for a month, including asking him if he raped any little boys repeatedly in front of
and by the way,
coaches.
in this thing, it was over, they said this toward Penn State a lot. Now, Kluwe was in hot water because the report detailed him making anti-gay actions, talking about like poking a hole in the back of his pants or something and blaming the coach that went to Penn State. So his hands aren't exactly clean this either, but it's really become a mudslinging session here. Kluwe has struck back. His final tweet during this rant: "Please, people, remember that I choose my words very carefully. Assumptions are your enemy." Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Chris Warcraft.
It's an interesting name. Okay, well, look, here's the thing. He's saying assumptions are your enemy and all that, and that's great. But if you're going to come out and say some questionable things, if you're going to go out there and just express your mind, you can't really be a representative for what he's trying to represent because it looks poorly on him as well. You have to carry yourself in a higher fashion than them if you want to be a good representative, to be honest. But
it's rather hypocritical, to be honest. And we saw the same thing happen with Brendan Abadasia. I don't know. It's a good spelling bee word if you're ever entering that, so you may as well look that up. He also went to UCLA. He was really just played special teams coverage of another big pro-gay activist, and he was cut from the team, and he said it was their fault. So, interesting how players can fall back on their activism for when they're cut. We still don't know if the NFL is ready, but it plays into a much larger scheme here. People like Michael Sam coming in. The gay atmosphere, if you will, gay people are becoming part of this community, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's how teams are going to react to this, and teams really need to get their act together if they're cutting players on talent or based on merits.
What do you guys think about the gay community coming into the NFL and professional sports in general?
Well, here's the thing. If you can play, you can play. This is about playing sports. If you have the talent, no one should be able to say no here. And I think that the people who aren't comfortable with it, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to get used to this. This is where we are.
Do you think it has anything to do with locker room situations?
Here, let me say this. If you are distracted by that and not by the fact that people in your locker room are taking steroids or people like that are, they could be potentially raping women, they could be murderers. If you're distracted by that and not those other information, like all those other bad things, then you seriously have to get your life worked out. Right. Because we understand, you may be uncomfortable. That's part of life. You're going to be uncomfortable in a lot of situations. But if you can't put that out of the way for the sport you love, quote unquote, then you obviously don't love that sport enough because your career, if you're a football player, should come above these distractions. And even if you are distracted, I understand. You may feel uncomfortable, but it's a question of whether you can get over it. And that's my question for all of people out there anyway.
And of course, and you made a really interesting point about the whole locker room idea. Of course, ESPN, the Body magazine issue came out. And there was a whole article about how nothing's going to happen. They talked to a player that was gay, but announced that it came out after he retired from the game and said, to be quite honest, it's not a romantic place. You wouldn't want to do anything there. And he's got the point. It's not exactly the most romantic place.
No, here's the thing.
To do anything. And
that's my first
thing
location.
Everyone, and I'm going to try and find the quote from this. They said that everyone looks. And there is hassling, and you know what? People make fun. You can call it because that's what you're part of the team. But no one, just because of that person's sexual orientation, it doesn't mean that they're going to become. I can't say the words that Chris Kluwe used, but he's a very funny guy.
To be honest, that's my first date location. If anybody wants to know, the first time I went out with a girl, I went to an NFL locker room because those are great places. Yeah.
Right. I think that players in any sport should look past their sexual orientation. like you said, you got to look past it because it will just get in the way, and your career could be over, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah, and now we have our Minnesota native, of course, so he's got a whole different perspective on this. He is basically living it. What are your thoughts about this whole situation?
To be honest, I really think that if there's it doesn't really matter your sexual orientation. That if it's a player that's helping your team, I think that they should look upon that as a good thing, not a bad thing. To be honest, like you have say, what if happens if like Adrian Peterson was gay?
Right.
Like he's like
would you look at it differently?
Yeah, exactly. Would you look at him differently? But he still helps a team. Like he would still run for his almost break a rushing record. Like think about that as a gay person winning the rushing record. But overall, I really think that if you help a team, I think you should be looked upon as a good thing.
Yeah. I think we can also look at the scenario, when the color barrier was first broken. Of course, Jackie Robinson wasn't the first black baseball player, but he was one of the first and probably the biggest in the whole movement. And you know what? And they started off disliking him. And that's how it works. And it was tough at first. But people realized, and it was great in the movie 42, he said, if Jackie Robinson can help us win, then he's going to be on this ball club. Because, like Jake said, if a player can play, then just say that you don't want him on the team. If he can win you a Super Bowl, something that every player dreams of since they're kids, if he can help you win that and you say no because he's gay, he's not the same sexual orientation as you, then you're selfish, to be honest.
Right.
And you need to get your priorities set.
Here's a quote from this article from Dave Fleming, written 2 weeks ago. Great article. Quote, a little excerpt, quote, when former NFL cornerback Wade Davis, the executive director of the LGBT athletes advocacy group You Can Play, speaks to to teams about tolerance inside the locker rooms, he uses this very reference to break the ice. Let's just stop with this idea that, gay guys are looking at everyone's penises because you straight guys admit it, you all know you're looking too. He tells his audience, this is invariably followed by tense moments of silence and sideways glances until the room busts out in laughter. Then David says all the inside shower jokes break out.
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. If a straight guy looks at another straight guy's penis, the people make gay jokes. They're not going to feel that worried about it because they know he's straight. But if it's a gay guy, the question is how are they going to react? Because the most important thing is that they realize, first of all, that he probably won't. He's not like... Here's the thing. They don't understand that gay people aren't rapists. They're not going to come on to you in the middle of the locker room. They're
don't flatter yourself. Just because you're a great football player doesn't mean he's going to want to be all over you, Dawson Vilma. I mean, look, here, at the end of the day, it's a 300 square foot rectangle lined with plain tile and 15 or so shared industrial spigots. Okay, this is a place where, ask the Buccaneers and the Browns what they think about their locker room and their staph infections. This sounds really steamy, right? And you're going to lose it when I tell you about what the Oakland A's have to go through, where it's flooded with sewage. So, get things straight. A, he's probably not into you, so get over yourself. B, it's not the most romantic place for a first date. And C, why the hell does it matter if he can help win you a Super Bowl?
By the way, this isn't a dating show, by the way.
That's a new move. This is going to be a dating show.
This is going to be a dating show.
NFL Locker Rooms brought to you by Jake Liger.
First date tips. Number one, if you're going to
don't go to a football locker room.
Okay.
I've spent my times in football locker rooms as a football player myself, and yeah, they're dirty. They're just no place for, I don't know. But
Jerry Sandusky thinks otherwise.
Oh, really? Hold on, you can't be like, Klubi can't do that and then make the same joke.
Okay, you won't know what I meant. Well, we talked about Chris Klubi, and of course, we'll see how this scenario unfolds, and we'll have more for you later. But we're going to move on, and we are, of course, in Boston, New England Patriots land, basically, and we're going to talk a little bit about Rob Gronkowski. So Gronkowski obviously has an injury history. And
yes, and Gronkowski has an injury history, and part of it is because of his wit. He's not the smartest bull. He gets injured, goes to rehab, and then re-injures his injury for stupid reasons like partying, and that's just
And this is
it's just dumb.
This opens up like a whole other thing. How are NFL players handling themselves? Because we just talked about the love of the game. And if Rob Gronkowski is willing to keep injuring himself because of partying or doing stupid things, like when Carlos Boozer broke his thumb somehow, was it like a light switch doing something else? It was something ridiculous before the first season. Are these players taking their careers seriously enough? Because we do talk about this with Johnny Manziel a lot, about how players shouldn't worry about what they're doing all offseason. But if it's jeopardizing their careers and your team, then you actually have to start worrying about, like Johnny Manziel, look, his team kept winning, so it's not a big deal at this point. But take, for example, Johnny Manziel becomes the franchise quarterback of Cleveland. He becomes a Pro Bowler, and he keeps partying, and he does stupid things and gets himself in trouble. Then you have a reason to worry. So Gronkowski came out and said he's going to play a full season. And obviously the question is, will he?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, personally. And we're going to have...
And also, if he is healthy enough, I'd like to see Belichick sideline.
I would too.
Personally.
That would actually... Here's the thing. We'll talk about Gronk, and we'll also incorporate what the NFL has to do about people getting in trouble off the field and how it's affecting their careers. Because especially for Gronkowski, and it's also the treatment of players.
By the way, have you guys noticed the trend of football players getting in trouble? Especially with Aaron Hernandez, all of that fiasco that's going on, the whole brouhaha. And, you have Gronkowski, and it's not even just in New England. I mean, you have
Chris Carter, Alden Smith. By the way, there seems to be this, I think we all love sports, but there seems to be this unfair bias toward players if they're athletes. If they weren't athletes...
That's how it always has been. I mean, you can look at Ray Lewis, you can look at Kobe Bryant.
Look at O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson even. Here's the thing. We love sports.
But we don't love crime.
But do we really care about crime when it comes to our best players? Look at the fans. The fans say, "Oh, we hate you. You're doing bad things." The second he steps on the court, Kobe Bryant, the second he steps back on, the second Ray Lewis stepped back on the field, nobody cared anymore. Because once again, he was their hometown. He was their hero. Right. He's the guy who saves franchise. And Gronkowski, people will dislike him. People who really understand sports, who are really getting to the bottom, who really understand that, look, Gronkowski's screwing everything up. Like, the Patriots would be such a better team. But no, instead they end up with a much weaker tight end core. Their tight ends. To be honest, Bill Belichick loved to play with two tight ends, and now they lost both of them. And he wasn't there last year.
And there's been such a fiasco that there's been this instability for that position. DJ Williams, who I believe is coming to the camp in 3 days, he was cut by the Patriots last November. Gronkowski got re-injured, and they re-signed him. So he's been cut and re-signed by the Patriots. He's been cut once and he's been re-signed twice. There's no stability there.
Here's an interesting question, because he's going to come. It's probably a good question to ask him what Rob Gronkowski is like.
Right.
Because let's see what kind of person he is. Is he really the guy that he thinks, he's humble and he tries to work hard? Or is he more of the partier? Is he a lot like Johnny Manziel? Because you don't hear a lot of people, maybe in Boston, but outside of Boston, you think of him as this hardworking, big-time tight end who's going to go out there and wreck people. And also, that's also with playing style. His playing style isn't obviously the smartest of playing styles.
And he has his personality. You talk about, players, how they handle themselves off the field. And the thing is, there's a microscope on you. Athletes are entitled to lives outside of the game. They're entitled to parties. But you have to realize that you have become an ambassador for your team. You have become a leader. And when you, not as a team, but as a player, become enigmatic, when you become bigger than the team itself, whether you're egotistic or not, trouble is created.
I think this is where you see who the great players are and who the players with talent but aren't willing to go that extra mile. See, the great players, even if they do stuff off the field, they're always willing to work hard and they're willing to give up this partying life if it means that they can be better athletes.
Also, you got to look at it this way, and this is also another thing that you can have with Tyler Seguin, who plays with the Dallas Stars now from the Boston Bruins. I mean, you're fit, you're built physically, and you're making millions, and you're a very good athlete. Who wouldn't party? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't party?
But here's the thing. You're entitled to party. But when you become, not just self-absorbed, but when you bring the attention to yourself, because here's the thing. It's not a problem if nobody knows if you're doing it. You don't even need to hide. But when you go out of your way to bring attention to yourself, like Rob Gronkowski, again, he's a very extravagant guy. That's his personality. He's a very outgoing guy. When you go out there and say stuff like Gronk Soy Fiesta, and you have these, catchphrases and big lines, people know you for that, and you become bigger than the athlete. You become the partier, because that's what the public sees. You're entitled to party. It's a great life.
But who do you see Brett Favre as one of the best quarterbacks of all time, or the guy who has a foot fetish? That's the question.
I think you mean Rex Ryan.
Oh, Rex. No, Brett Favre had one too.
Really? I thought he just had a snowball throwing thing.
He had a lot of things going on with him. He had a lot of things. I mean, but here's the thing. At least he won on the Packers.
Now the line, Jen Sturger is going to hit us. Brett Favre.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
that's
guys.
Blake.
Yeah. So now we're gonna move on to a new topic.
By the way, that's Blake, not Jen. I'm just kidding.
okay. Right
Just to
on.
clear that out.
So now let's move on to Alex Smith, people. So he's talking about getting maximum money with the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, the team was very, very successful this past season. They made the playoffs and they went. You could say that they've had one of their best seasons in recent memories. But now, is he an elite level quarterback or is he still an average quarterback? So now, guys, it's up to you to debate. Is Alex Smith deserving of a paycheck, kind of like Joe Flacco before he won the Super Bowl? Or if not, no, why don't you start it off?
We'll start with this. Joe Flacco, he got a paycheck after he won the Super Bowl. This is not Alex Smith, whose team hasn't won a Super Bowl. He was a quarterback for the Niners, but let's remember the two teams he's been on. And remember how they play. Do the Niners throw the ball a lot? No, they don't. Do the Chiefs throw the ball a lot? No, they don't. So, even though Joe Flacco has the same thing and he got paid a lot, Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. Alex Smith, what have you done? Sure, you were a good quarterback on the Niners. You did well with them. But unfortunately, you didn't get them to the Super Bowl. That was Colin Kaepernick. You didn't win them a Super Bowl because they haven't won one and the Chiefs haven't won one either. And you could see it. AFC against the Broncos. They just were no match. Their offense wasn't potent enough. And when it was, it's because they gave the ball to Jamal Charles. So if the team isn't contingent on you, if they don't need you as much as you think, then really why should they pay you a lot? Go ahead, Alex. If you want a lot of money, go to a team that's desperate. Go to the Jaguars. Go to a team that really needs a quarterback. Have fun there. Let's see how good of a quarterback you are when you're going to Justin Blackman, who isn't there half the time, or Cecil Shorts, who just doesn't appear at all. And then we'll see if you're worth the money.
Okay, so now we're going to transition. What do you think Alex Smith has to do to be a top-level quarterback? What does he need to win a Super Bowl? I mean, what do you think?
I think he has to become more of a leader, to be honest. Like, you look at the games in the playoffs last year against the Colts. They go up 30-plus points over the Colts, and they came back. The Chiefs need somebody to almost lead them. Alex Smith has not been a leader for them in the last year since he's been there. Sure, they've won a bunch of games, but yeah, they've just been handing it off to Jamal Charles in the last year, and that's basically been about it. They haven't really had someone to lead them into the playoffs and keep a momentum-building game going like they did have against the Colts, and then they eventually lost.
So does he have to win a Super Bowl, or are you saying he needs to become more of a leader in the locker room?
I think first he has to become a leader, because to be honest, you need somebody to lead you to a Super Bowl, and to be honest, if you go to a Super Bowl and you don't have a leader, you almost don't have a shot. But if he becomes a leader, I think there's a possibility that he could lead his team to the Super Bowl. But to be honest, right now, I don't think he could do it.
Really quickly, so we don't insanely bash him and just be unfair to him.
Yeah,
he did have a great year last year. Nobody's denying it. He was a Pro Bowler, and he played well. But it's not Aaron Rodgers. It's not Tom Brady. It's not Peyton Manning. It's not even Cam Newton or Andrew Luck yet. And that's the question. It's not even close. The question is does he warrant that? And he's a good quarterback, and some people would consider him an above good. He's a Pro Bowler. But the question is he elite? Is he that top tier? I don't feel that.
I feel like Joe Flacco's agent has sort of ascended into this euphoria listening to this elite talk about quarterbacks. Elite is such a vague term that everyone has a different definition of elite. For me, elite is
The top, right?
the very top flight, and it's exclusive thing. Alex Smith is not near that there yet. However, the fact that you guys are bashing Alex Smith like this, he's just got a lot of bad breaks. He's not a fantastic quarterback. Yes, he is the game manager. But is that so bad? With the teams he was on won games. 2010, okay, in the game they lost against the Giants. They won that fantastic game against the New Orleans Saints, 36-32, threw for 299 yards, 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions, and ran for a touchdown too. All right? So you got that there. Against the New York Giants, Smith became the first quarterback in NFL playoff history to lead 2 go-ahead touchdowns in the final 3 minutes of a game. And the Niners still lost 2017 in overtime to the Giants in the NFC Championship game. Smith went 12 for 26, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, but the team turned the ball over twice on special teams. So don't say he didn't make it to the Super Bowl. It's not necessarily his fault here, okay? Kansas City.
Well, no, I understand what you're saying, Jay. I'm not debating he's a bad quarterback. I think he's a Pro Bowl level quarterback. But to say I deserve to be paid among the highest,
What has he done statistically?
Okay, so last year, 80, and nobody cares about quarterback rating, to be honest. He's a 60% passer, which is actually down from when he was with the Niners the year before, but he had less time. 3,313 yards, 23 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Those are good numbers. Nobody's denying that's not a good...
That was last year, right?
And he has 431 yards rushing, which is not bad either for a quarterback. But the thing is, those aren't amazing numbers. And unless you win a Super Bowl, you don't get Joe Flacco money. Joe Flacco didn't get the money because he had amazing stats. He got there because he led them to the Super Bowl. The same reason Russell Wilson will. Russell Wilson is a good quarterback. He's very mobile, but he doesn't have eye-popping stats. He's a game manager as well. He knows how to manage the game very, very well, and he does it to the point where he's able to lead his team to Super Bowl. And he's enough of a worry that they can't just say, we're just going to go and smother Marshawn Lynch.
But with Smith, here is the... at the end of the day, with Alex Smith, he may be a game manager, but if he wants all that money, if he thinks he's that great, I think right now what he's doing is smart asking for the maximum money, because I don't think he's going to be as good this year. The Chiefs aren't going to be as good this year. They fell apart in that one game against the Colts. They were injury-free. 6 of their best players got injured, and they completely blew the game against the Colts in the second half. It's all downhill from here. Their draft was poor. So you know what, Alex Smith, if you still think that you can perform among the elite, go sign a 1-year extension. Make this year a contract year and see how you perform under tough pressure against rising teams in that division like Oakland, San Diego, and Denver. Prove yourself. You can talk the talk, but it's time to see if you can walk the walk. A 1-year extension, make this a contract year.
Okay, well now, guys, NFL, it's over. Well, obviously it's over. We're in the summer. We still have some summer practice going on before we start that preseason. Now we're going to go over to NBA and talk about Summer League. Lots of exciting action, especially the Cavaliers. They've been very, very hot, but lots to talk about here about teams, the new Eastern Conference, or you could say it's not as powerful as the West, because it sure as heck isn't, but it's more exciting because you have so much uncertainty surrounding who is going to be the top team in the East this year. So why don't we just start off quickly talking about Summer League, the standings, running down some scores in the schedule real quick.
Okay, so let's start with this. We are into the playoffs, I guess, of the NBA Summer League, which is new. And it's been they have playoffs now.
Playoffs?
They do the playoffs.
Talking about playoffs?
They're doing playoffs in Summer League.
Practice. It's practice and it's playoffs. Allen Iverson, Jim Moore, get over here.
Yeah, here's the thing. Look, it's weird to see this. And I know a lot of people don't really care to a certain extent about the Summer League. And we actually do have one finalist. There's another one too who already made it, but I have no idea because it doesn't say it. It's the Rockets made it. Let's start with that. After defeating the Hornets, which were a big upstart team, led by Noah Vonleh. Weirdly enough, it's the 23 seed and the 14 seed. So if you really want to know something, the Summer League doesn't really matter because the teams just win randomly. Because it's not a 7-game season. Just as, as to see how they're doing. So this is really more a conversation about rookies, I guess, and how they're performing.
Wait, so the Washington Wizards beat the Spurs and the Heat. Just to give you
By the way, we do have the score. Sacramento defeated Washington, so it'll be Sacramento versus Houston tomorrow.
Oh wow!
Let's go to the statistics because I think that's what's the most important. And though we can talk about Glenn Rice Jr., who's leading in points, I think what most people want to hear about is the rookies and how they're doing. And let's start with this. The rookies are not putting up amazing numbers. Just going to put that out there. We can go well down the list. And the first one we find, interestingly enough, Chicago Bull, Doug McDermott. A guy who came in out of Creighton, big-time scorer. He was heavily criticized because people think he's like Jimmer.
But more like Adam Morris.
But he's like Kyle Korver. He can create his own shot to a certain extent.
He's bigger.
He's bigger. He's a much bigger guy. Apparently, he has trimmed down a bit to put on, he's put more muscle on, lost a little bit of weight. So let's go around here. We'll talk about, and the other big ones, T.J. Warren has been up there. Just because even though he's not a rookie, we always have to talk about the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Zach LaVine, also putting up about 16 points per game. LA Laker Jordan Clarkson has been very impressive. Jabari Parker as well. And Andrew Wiggins, surprisingly not the top 2 names on the list. But let's start with Jay. I know you haven't watched Summer League that much. and basically at all. But
When you're a Lakers fan these days, it's very tough to watch basketball. And when the games don't mean anything, it's actually better because then when you lose, you don't have to feel bad about yourself. We lost against the 76ers, but Jordan Clarkson has proven himself. You know, we got him in the second round, a last-minute trade with, I believe it was the Wizards. It doesn't matter. I believe we traded with the Wizards to get the pick, and Clarkson is impressed. We need all the help we can get.
Okay, and you're obviously from Minnesota. Zach LaVine has done well, but also if you have any other input, of course.
Of course, Andrew. You have Wiggins. Obviously on the trade block you could be having with Kevin Love, but you also have Kevin Love could also go to Golden State. There's so much controversy going on right now. To be honest, it could go either way. I can't believe we didn't take a trade with Golden State in the draft to try to get some better players. We could have got 3 great players, the Timberwolves, for Kevin Love. But that ended up not happening for I have no idea what reason. Almost a boneheaded move by Flip. But to be honest, as a Timberwolves fan, I would like to see Wiggins, but I feel like as the trade goes right now, I feel we can get a lot more for Love. I mean, there's almost no one in the league that can get 12 rebounds per game like Kevin Love can, and then back out and shoot a 3. There's almost nobody. You could say Chris Bosh could do it once in a while, but Kevin Love is probably one of the most dynamic players in the game today.
Yeah, exactly on point. And what I was going to say next is that there's been some recent talk about Kevin Love and his destinations. A lot of people think he's coming to Cleveland for Andrew Wiggins, and a lot of people think he's staying in Minnesota. So there's this 50-50 percentile, people thinking where he's going. He's the last big dice, you could say, in the NBA free agency in 2014, because we've seen where Melo signed, we've seen where LeBron is signed, and kind of all the other pieces fell after that. But Kevin Love is the huge piece that everybody is talking about. Where do you guys think he is going to fall and why?
Suppose he does go to Cleveland. Does that make Cleveland this ultimate powerhouse that's going to be expected to win the championship for the NBA?
It makes them expected to.
We talked about the enigma before. LeBron James, whether or not it's his fault, has become this enigma. The attention the team gets, of course, they're going to be expected to win. I mean, Bavana already came out saying that they were the favorites to win the Eastern Conference. Are they? Heck no. When it comes to Kevin Love, he wants to stay on the West Coast, or go to the West Coast, I should say. I think he's going to go to the Warriors. I still think that they're going to find a way to deal with the Warriors. Golden State is very interested. As is Kevin Love. I think that's his ideal destination. Maybe a sign and trade, perhaps. You send over Love for maybe Klay Thompson, Harris Barnes, maybe throw David Lee in there. Some sort of mix and match. I think, however, that Golden State is the ideal destination for Kevin Love, and Kevin Love is the ideal piece to the puzzle, to complete the puzzle for Golden State.
Well, here's the question. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a semi-rant here relating to the Warriors and the Cavaliers. But, okay, so let's start with this. If the Warriors and the Timberwolves want to work out a deal, first of all, they have to get their egos out of the way. Because half of them are saying, oh, we want more for Love. And then Warriors say, no, we don't want to give you more for Love. We don't want to give you Klay Thompson. It's not going to work like that. It's called negotiation. You have to have some squeezing room. You have to be able to, work it out a bit. If you're just going to be stubborn, you're not going to get anywhere. You're both going to end up a lot worse because Love's going to walk, and he might not walk to Golden State because they might not have the money. We don't know. But now let's go to the Cavaliers. Let's start off with this. The Cavaliers, as they are 3 years away from winning a title, at best. Because Kyrie's great, but they don't know each other yet. Two. I'd say 3. Because they have Kyrie and they've got LeBron. But how ready is Wiggins to be that third most important piece? And you realize it's not about the big 3, though. It's not about the big 3. We just learned that with the Spurs, and it's about you have good depth. You're a better team, and the Cavaliers are yet to complete that level of depth.
Well, I think that I'm going to give them the opportunity to perform this year and say they will.
And here's if the Cavaliers trade Wiggins and Bennett, which they're not doing, they will regret it.
Oh yeah,
they will regret it because they won't win with just LeBron and Love. And you know what? People don't like Bennett, but he's playing well in Summer League, and I'm gonna come out and say this: he will have 2 All-Star appearances by the time he retires from the NBA. Because this guy, everybody said, "Oh, he's horrible, biggest bust." He had 1 year. How can you judge him? Kwame Brown's bust year was better than Roy Hibbert's year this year, and everybody thinks Kwame Brown was horrible. Listen, you have to give
that Kwame was not horrible.
Kwame was not good, but I'm implying that Kwame was run out of the league because he was given the bust label. And what constitutes a bust? You had a poor year, but if in 2 years from even if this year Bennett comes out and puts up 8 points and 5 rebounds, that's a good, effective bench player. That's guy's coming off the bench for Tristan Thompson. He's giving you minutes. The next year he puts up 10 and he puts up 7. This guy, he's trimmed down. He's taking it seriously, and that's a guy who I think could eventually become a 6th man of the year at some point potentially. I think he has that level of Taj Gibson. He can end up being like a Taj Gibson. He can come off the bench and still put up very, very good numbers. And then Wiggins, who could potentially have one of the best careers in the NBA because he has just such a high ceiling. He could be a guy who gives you 25 points a night and can give you 7 rebounds. He can give you 5 assists. He can put up almost LeBron-like numbers. Of course, not the same kind of dominance, but he can put up terrific numbers. Are you willing to give up all of this potential and this depth as well for somebody who won't make your team necessarily that much better? He gives you a big 3, sure, and it gives you the immediate chance to win. But even the Heat couldn't win it in their first year. So you're giving up depth for the future, and you're risking the fact that you can never build the depth.
I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do the trade. I wouldn't trade for Kevin Love.
Now I'm not a basketball expert, but I know looking at it from a point of view of like a managing point of view, it's not a good deal because you're giving up future. Would Kevin Love make you win a championship immediately?
That's the question, of course, because look, you have the whole... You're in the East, which makes it a lot easier. But even now, you're going against the Bulls, which have a ton of depth now. They've just added Pau Gasol to make that rotation of front court so dangerous. They've added Aaron Brooks. Here's the question. Can a big 3 beat depth?
I don't think the question necessarily is big 3. I'd rather have someone who has really seen Kevin Love play. I don't know why I'm blanking on your name all of a sudden. It starts with not Ryan.
No.
Greg. One of you.
That's Ryan.
That's Ryan. What? That's what happens when you're live. You take chances. You risk everything. That joke's done now. The World Cup. So
okay, great.
Thoughts here on Kevin Love? You've seen him play. Do you think that he could win a championship with them?
Sorry.
To be honest, at this moment, not the first year going in. If Kevin Love just came there that year, not to be honest, no, because to win a championship, I still think the Spurs are probably favorites to win the championship because they have depth and they have chemistry. They've been playing together for a long, long time. They know where they're going to be on the court. They know they know their game plan going in. And then when you have Kevin Love going into Cleveland first year, it's almost like how the Heat reacted inside the finals their first year against the Mavericks. They almost just choked it out, to be honest. They weren't meshing as a team, to be honest. And then with Kevin Love going in, you also have to deal with a bunch of other teams too, like the Bulls. And then you also have the Indiana Pacers, who they're knocking on the door of a championship because of their defense, their vice-type defense that they can have, and they can take away points. They can take away LeBron's amazing shots that he can make. They can take away Kevin Love. They can do that, but to be honest, it all just comes down to chemistry. I think it would maybe be if Kevin Love goes there and he has to commit. To be honest, if he goes there, even if he goes there, if he commits, it's got to be 2 or 3 years down the road before they become title contention.
Yeah, I think that you make a really good point about meshing here, and it's not a coincidence that the 3 teams that Kevin Love are looking at right now: Cleveland Cavaliers, Dave Brack, new coach of that team; Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr, new coach; Minnesota Timberwolves, Flip Saunders, new for this tenure, I guess. New for the return. Adidas should get on that. For Saunders. So, you want to start the ground up, and that's why I think that Cleveland will make a mistake by giving away young players. I think that Kevin Love is fantastic, and I don't even know if it's possible anymore, but I still think that he's underrated and feels like he's an underrated player. So, at the end of the day, do you want to give up very young talent, and you can build them from the ground up with a stable coaching position?
Do the Cavaliers need immediate help?
That's the question. Even if they bring him in and he doesn't provide a championship the first year, Then you have the Pacers who are just going to get better. You have the Bulls who are going to get better. Everybody's getting better. And if they can't win a championship in the first 2 years, now suddenly they're no longer the clear favorite team. Now suddenly,
not to mention that they have in the back of their mind that, we just gave up all these prospects for this player that's supposed to make us win this championship that we did not win.
Let's also take the Spurs model. They don't go out and say, hey, look, LeBron James wants to win a championship tournament. Let's give him Tim Duncan. Let's give him everybody. No. They say, look, we're happy with what we got. Because we know that maybe we won't win this year. Maybe we won't win next year. But we're going to win 3 or 4. What's better for the... Here's the question Cleveland has to decide. Do we want one championship now?
Or do we want more in the future?
Or we want more in the future. Do we want to build a dynasty? Do we want to build a place where free agents come and say, hey, I want to play there? Because here's what they did the wrong last time. They went after Antoine Jameson. They went after Shaq. They went after all these players, but they didn't build around what they had. You know, they gave up Danny Green. Danny Green was a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they gave him up. Because they didn't understand that I think you have to start building from inside. And that's the most important thing now. You look at the best teams. The Thunder, the Bulls, the Pacers. They are all, the Spurs, obviously, we just said that. They are all teams that build internally. And if Cleveland gives it up, let's look at the roster right now anyways. LeBron James did not play there last year. Mike Miller did not play there last year. James Jones did not play there last year. Let's see, Andrew Wiggins, we can't really count him, I guess. But so many players didn't play there last year. They're already starting to do that. What they have to be careful is they don't overdo it. Leave it how it is. Give it a year to test. If Love isn't gone, he can walk and sign with Cleveland.
And that's another thing you can think about for the Cavaliers. Are they setting themselves up for an implosion, to be honest? Because LeBron James only signed for 2 years, to be honest. He's saying he's going to commit for a long term, but why did he only sign for 2 years if he's going to do that?
2 years isn't long term.
It isn't long term.
It isn't.
And here's the thing, though. There are some reasons. In 2 years is when the NBA has their new TV contract. So the cap room expands greatly. So if you have a 2-year contract, 2 years from now, or actually it's next year, so he can re-sign next year and say, look, I'm going to opt out of my contract. You got to give me a lot.
And let me ask you a question. How do you think the Heat will do now with LeBron James departing?
That's an interesting question. Let's go.
Because in my opinion, it seemed like to me that LeBron carried the Heat to the NBA Finals.
Correct, and they didn't have depth. But guess what? Now they have depth. Everyone's going to be sleeping on the Heat. Chris Bosh is still a fantastic player. Dwayne Wade still has talent. Health, that's a different story. They brought in Danny Granger, who has shown flashes of brilliance. You have a solid enough player in Josh McRoberts. At least you have more depth. You're in a post-Carmelo Denver Nuggets situation here. You're close. You need more pieces of the puzzle, but absolutely don't sleep on this team because this team could easily win another championship. Because now they have depth. They just don't have the draw.
Okay, guys. Jake, you did a great job of segueing it, but guys, best team in the East. So I'm going to start with you, Ryan. What do you think? I mean, the Bulls, the Heat. I mean, even the Cavaliers. It's hard to say. I mean, after all that we've been through in this offseason, just say it. Come on.
Probably going to be the Cavaliers.
Cavaliers.
LeBron James.
Probably with LeBron James, and like I said, I'm no basketball expert, but probably just with all the fuss that it's been, it's probably going to be, I got to give it to Cleveland.
Okay. Greg, what do you think? Which team and why?
To be honest, I don't think the Cleveland Cavaliers are quite there yet. I honestly think that this year might be the Pacers' year, just because of they have Roy Hibbert, which he can put up a lot of points per night, and they just have a great coaching staff. They have a tight defense that can take away points every night. So I think that right now, I think the Pacers have a little bit of an edge, but I think the Bulls are there too. To be honest,
Jake, are you taking the Knicks?
I am not taking Knicks. I will root for the Knicks.
Take the Celtics instead.
I love you, D-Fish, and I hope you do well. You know what? I don't know why everyone is sleeping on it. There are two teams that always seem to be slept on. It's the Toronto Raptors and it's the Washington Wizards. Washington looks very solid this year, and guess what? There's going to be extra motivation. They've already hired Kevin Durant's high school coach as an assistant. They're thinking way in the future. You want to know about thinking in the future? Thinking way in the future. If you can make a good playoff run here, you might be able to lure Kevin Durant. There's extra motivation for Washington. Look out for them. I don't think Toronto is just ready to make that next step yet, but now that Washington has been able to mesh, the Wizards have what it takes.
Kevin Durant, this is the official pitch for you from the Washington Wizards. We are getting better, and we will maybe win a championship, but we're in the Eastern Conference, so it's probably unlikely. Okay, New York, honestly, Carmelo Anthony was a horrible deal. They basically made it so they can't sign anybody else. Cleveland's out getting up there. Detroit, Boston, Orlando, Philadelphia, Milwaukee. Let's forget about
What
that.
about Charlotte? What happened to Charlotte?
No, I'm going to talk about it. Let's talk
Start
about the Charlotte Hornets. Let's talk about the Charlotte Hornets. I don't think they're the best team in the East.
Stevenson.
I never thought
They have Cody Zeller, who's getting much better. They just got Noah Vonleh really far down in the draft, which is a terrific pick. Al Jefferson, Kemba Walker. Now they got Lance Stevenson. That's a good team. For me, then Washington, Toronto, definitely the three teams that could be, budding big teams. Indiana, for me, I like Indiana. I think they have a great coaching staff, and for that reason, I think they'll still be up there. And I think Paul George is obviously a phenomenal basketball player, but Lance Stevenson hurts. Miami, they're good too, but they only have Morris Cole. They've only got Josh McRoberts. They've only got Danny Granger. They've only got Dwayne Wade, and they've only got Chris Bosh. That's only him under contract. That's the team you're going to pick over the Cavaliers. Now have the best player in the NBA.
Are we saying for the future, or are we saying for this year?
We're talking about this year.
This year.
This year.
Okay, that team's got championship experience. They're not going to the East, but
they have championship experience, but they're going up against people who also have championship experience. LeBron James. Then you've got a couple of guys who aren't championship ready, but Kyrie Irving.
Who was the last team in the Eastern Conference to win the championship out in the Miami Heat?
It's Celtics.
The Boston Celtics. Okay.
But here's the thing: even though they have experience, then why didn't the Lakers? Why aren't the Lakers and the Celtics?
I'm saying there is an edge there.
According to Jake, guys, the Celtics and the Lakers have the most experience. They will win.
No. Don't put words into my mouth here. I'm saying, why are we throwing Miami completely away? Chris
We're
Bosh
not.
is still an all-star.
We're not, but we don't think they're the same
Danny
level as the other
Granger, Josh
teams.
McGarz are fantastic players. They absolutely have what it takes to win.
I know this
You don't know what kind of Dwayne Wade you have. You
That's
don't know
very
what kind of Chris Bosh you have.
That's the same way with Derrick Rose, to be honest. But here's the thing: I don't think Miami's bad, and I still think they're a top 4 team.
Okay.
But in the end, and this is a tiny bit of homerism here, but I'm going to Chicago. And I saw a great article on Bleacher Report that the Bulls are becoming the Spurs of the East. They've just signed, it's depth. It's all about depth. They just signed Aaron Brooks to give them scoring off the bench. They've done terrific with that. Nate Robinson, DJ Augustine all got big contracts because they had great years with Tom Thibodeau. They've got Tom Thibodeau. That's a great defensive coach. He's able to attract players to a certain extent. Obviously didn't work with Melo. But you've got Doug McDermott, Tony Snell, Jimmy Butler. You've got one of the most loaded front courts with Mirotic, who is said to be the next potential Dirk out of Spain. You've also got Pau Gasol. You've got Taj Gibson. You've got Joakim Noah.
What Derrick Rose are you going to get? Because you can play.
I understand that.
Question
But
marks
if
here.
you realize something, Tom Thibodeau gets the most out of the least. And now he actually has more. So it's time for the Bulls to get it. By the way,
Right now, we're getting ready to read a War and Peace. The longest of long stories.
yeah, but I mean, look, it could go plenty of ways. The Eastern Conference is really unpredictable. So, Blake.
Yeah, okay, guys. That was a great debate. Now we're going to take our first commercial break here on National Sports, and then we're going to come back and talk about Major League Baseball today.
And we have an interesting commercial break. Jake is going to do a commercial because the commercials have gotten old. So, I hope you guys all enjoy. Jake, take it away.
All right, well, we're probably not allowed to mention any of these companies on TV, but we don't make money, so it's all good. Big Brother, fantastic show. It's my favorite show on CBS. 3 nights a week, Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, and Sunday nights. It's probably on right now, but don't leave us for it. Record it, catch up with it. It's fantastic. Netflix, everyone loves Netflix, so check them out too. We're sort of going through a list of all the companies that could probably sue us right now. My own show, Rookies Around, we won't sue you for talking about us on this exact show, so check that out too. More commercials. Chase Bank seems to be everywhere, so Chase Bank, Chase What Matters. MasterCard, because this show is priceless. Geico, because they're fantastic with their puns, and we love our puns on this show. And me, Jake Lager. If you ever need an ad man, me.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Now we're going to bring it back into our first episode here from Boston, the National Sports Boston camp. Jake, great job on the commercial. Now we're going to move over to Major League Baseball today. Talk about the NL prediction and who is the favorite to win the World Series. But first of all, let's just announce. One sec.
Milwaukee.
So, Jake, why don't you give us a little summary of the game that both you and I, and also Noah, went to today. We went to Fenway Park.
They won 6-0. Done.
Anything else?
They scored 1 run in the first inning. They scored 2 in the third. They scored 3 in the fourth. It was a 6-0 the final score. Fantastic performance out of John Lester. The Red Sox have decided to stop losing.
And let's remember whose fantasy team John Lester is on. Mine. And
okay,
this is me.
By the way, so Noah has a fantasy team that wins a lot in really all the sports, so he doesn't have to mention that anymore. He won fantasy football, he won fantasy basketball, and he is first place right now in fantasy baseball.
Okay.
And that's all we need.
Let's move on to what we
Noah's
actually.
really good at fantasy.
People don't want to hear about my fantasy. Well, that's not true. They do. But let's talk about something else.
What is your fantasy?
My fantasy. Oh, it's a long story.
Blake's figuring out what his fantasy is right now.
That's a good one. Let's move on to the National League. And we'll start with the National League
I'll go
East.
with the Brewers on this one.
National League East, the Brewers?
The Brewers.
Let's start with the National League
Brewers
East.
won the National League East, guys.
The Brewers.
Everyone's relocated.
Okay, let's start with the NL East, and we really can limit this down
The
to
NL East.
Washington and Atlanta are the two teams, because really, the Mets, Miami, and Philadelphia.
What a team.
Do they even play baseball anymore?
What, the Mets?
The Mets? Do they play baseball?
Did they used to play baseball?
They-
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest,
they
I
play
didn't
baseball.
even know. I thought they relocated.
They're like the Oakland Raiders. Somebody last year said we're talking about the Oakland Raiders versus somebody. I was blinking. I just had no idea who the Raiders were. I'm like, oh, the football team.
Doesn't ring a bell.
They actually what they like to play. They like to play two-hand touch, and that's why they don't seem to understand that two-hand touching the player will not actually down him at that point. That has been the big issue with their defense over the past few years. They're looking for Khalil Mack to
I
change
vote to replace the Oakland Ailers.
Ailers?
Oh my goodness.
A's, Raiders. I didn't even know they played football anymore because apparently that's a liable excuse now. We'll replace them with the Edmonton Eskimos. 4-0 in the CFL.
I am a huge Eskimos fan, by the way.
Really, I decided I was an Eskimos fan 2 days ago.
Because
They're
they're
yellow
Eskimo
and green.
brothers.
I mean, best quarterback in the CFL.
I can't name a single player on that team.
My
I haven't
God.
watched to play a single game, but 2 days ago I was like, hey, that team's
The
yellow and
Eskimos,
green like the
come on.
Packers. Let's throw for them.
Okay, so the NL East, Washington and Atlanta. They're tied. It could go either way. So the question is, who wins, and why? And it's tough, but I'm going to go with Washington. I'll give Bryce Harper the benefit of the doubt. I'll give Strasburg the benefit of the doubt. I'll give Gio Gonzalez the benefit of the doubt.
I would agree with
The
you.
Washington Nationals.
By the way, have you ever
Presidents.
Have you ever been to the National Park?
No, I don't want to go.
You don't want to go?
No.
I've been there.
You been there?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
He has been there.
I have been to National Park to see them lose to the Orioles.
To be honest, I will agree with you. Just if Strasburg and Harper they start producing. So Harper's made some changes to his batting stance, to be honest, and he started to produce some more. And Strasburg, we know he's a K machine. If he can just start getting some runs behind him and he can bring that ERA down, I think that Washington has a really good chance.
What's his ERA right now? Do you know?
I think it's a little. I think it's over 2. I think it's not too bad, but he isn't getting the runs that he needs to win games.
We are talking about Steven Strasburg, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I will pull up his stats right now. Oh, right now it's not as high as it's higher than you would expect, actually.
What's it at right now?
I believe it's, from what I just saw, it's at 3.55. 3.55. That's not exactly what I actually want to look at the other
Look
guy.
how many strikeouts he has, though, too.
He has a lot. It's going to be a good number.
What is it? Is that just the season? The stats? Okay.
If you while you continue on talking, I will pull up the stats for the Nationals right now.
Mm-hmm. But then you can also look at the Braves too. You have their your all-star outfield as of 2 years ago, to be honest. But right now you have the 2 Uptons and you have Jason Hayward, and they at times can produce. Like Justin Upton can hit a ball 500 feet, to be honest. And then Jason Hayward, he is a solid number 4, number 5 hitter. And B.J. Upton, he can get on base and he can steal bases.
Well, here's some interesting numbers. B.J. Upton has been struck out the most times in Major League Baseball.
Exactly. He's been striking out a lot. If he can get off that rut that he's in, and he can get on base, he starts stealing. You start knocking in runs for B.J. Upton. And
let's start with the guy nobody's talking about for Washington, and actually their best pitcher, Tanner Roark. He's actually at a 2.91 ERA. Now, wins is a bad stat, to be honest. Strasburg, you're right, 158 strikeouts this year, which is amazing. But the guys who you wouldn't expect, Tanner Rourke and Jordan Zimmerman are leading the team.
I could expect Jordan
Zimmerman, yeah.
Yeah,
but Tanner Rourke is a really interesting
I didn't
case.
see him coming.
And that actually impresses me. Because the fact that their best pitcher isn't pitching the best, shows that they have depth. And that even if he doesn't produce, that he can do quite well. This team can do quite well. Let's go over to the Braves right now, because we talked a lot about them. We just talked about their outfield, which Justin Upton is still producing. And, of course, they're probably their best player right now, star first baseman Freddie Freeman.
Yep, Freddie Freeman. He's coming off his Rookie of the Year last year. And to be honest, he has so much upside as a first baseman because he just makes so much contact.
13 homers, 53 RBIs on the year.
Doesn't strike out a lot too. Hits it to the opposite field. Has a lot of upside.
Exactly. I think this is a very hard division to call. Without a doubt, both these teams will be the top two teams for years to come. They've got the talent to do it.
And there's also always the wild card too. That's always open.
Exactly. And even B.J. Upton, who hasn't played necessarily, well, his ERA, I mean, his batting average is horrifying.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 214. But even he has drove in runs at times, and that's the important thing. That even their worst players, batting-wise at least, can come up big at certain times, and that's really what the most important part is. And let's not forget about their pitching, because to be honest, Aaron Harang came out of nowhere, and they also have Julio Teheran, who's been a pleasant surprise, striking out 116, and they've got the best closer in baseball, Craig Kimbrell.
Yep.
So it's an intriguing scenario, but I'm going to stick with Washington. Jake, do you have any small input on this topic, Braves or Washington?
I like Washington here because, let's just take a look at their most basic stats. Yes, Atlanta's winning games, but what are they doing offensively? 28th in runs, 22nd in batting average, 23rd in above base percentage, 22nd in slugging percentage. Pitching is where they thrive. 6th in ERA, first in quality starts, 11th in whip, 13th in batting average, in opponent's batting average. Whereas the Nationals, I'm going to straight out assume that their batting is better. Let's take a look. Mediocre, 14th in runs, 19th batting average, 18th on base percentage, 13th in slugging percentage. Pitching, first in ERA, 7th quality starts, 5th in whip, 11th in batting average. So these are both teams that are better pitching-wise. At the end of the day, I like what the Washington Nationals can do because of their ability to take advantage of benefits given to them. They have a better home record. When they are put in situations that should be easy to take care of things, they get the job done.
Okay. So that's an interesting division, of course, and it very well could come down to pitching. But we're going to go to a division that could come down to basically anything. And, of course, Ryan has just left, and as he blurted out at the beginning, Milwaukee. That's the team he's got taken off. They are now tied in first place with St. Louis.
They're losing steam.
Yeah, they are. Steam. But they're in there also with... This is probably the best year the Central has had in a very long time. Even when they had 3 teams, they never had 4. St. Louis, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati, all within 2.5 games of each other. Now, that's tight. That could go down to the wire.
One thing that I honestly think that could really change the division is probably if David Price goes to the St. Louis Cardinals. Because right now, you would have Carpenter, who's having a fantastic year. And then you could also have David Price, who is just on fire right now. I think he has a sub-1 ERA in the last 5 games, which is ridiculous. That's getting the Clayton Kershaw range right there. But right now, if they can get that trade done, it's down to them and I think the A's right now. But if they can get that trade done, the Cardinals, I think they become the favorite inside the Central. Just having those 2 pitchers and having the solid lineup that they have with Carpenter and Adams and the other Carpenter, as long as Matt Carpenter stays healthy.
Yeah, here's the thing. St. Louis is the best team, in my opinion. They have the most experience. They're coming off a World Series appearance. You got to give them a little bit of credit there. There are a lot of other good teams there. But I'm going to trust experience over Milwaukee. Milwaukee's a good team, don't get me wrong. Last 10 games, they're 2-8.
Yeah, they're faltering a lot.
They are struggling. And only St. Louis is actually above 500 in their past 10 games. So I'm going to take a team that's riding the momentum over a team that hasn't done really well. By the way, only one team in this division has actually won their past few games, and that's Pittsburgh. St. Louis coming off a loss. So Pittsburgh also, Milwaukee is in danger of even losing their spot to Pittsburgh. Because we're doing the NL, I think one of the wild cards is going to come out of this division.
It could possibly be 2, to be honest.
Yeah, but here's the thing. My wild card. First of all, I'll talk about that later. But I have one wild card in this division. I'm going to go. Milwaukee's dropping. Cincinnati lost their last 3. I'm going to go Pittsburgh. I'm going to go Pittsburgh to pop over and make a second straight playoff appearance. I think St. Louis and Pittsburgh do it again. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously very, very important. Continuity is very important when it comes to baseball. So I like Pittsburgh to take a wild card.
Oh, yeah. I would agree with you.
Yeah, so we're going to move on now to the West. And, of course, our Dodgers fan just left the building. So now we need to bash the Dodgers. The Dodgers suck. They're horrible at everything they do. No. Just kidding.
Well, what about Zach Greinke?
Zach Greinke.
He's been faltering as of late. But, to be honest, the Dodgers, I think, are still the favorite. They just have a stacked lineup. You have Adrian Gonzalez. You have Hanley Ramirez.
Last year I picked the Dodgers to go on to the World Series instead of ended up being the Cardinals and my Boston Red Sox.
I actually had them going that far as well. This is a great... I have both of them making playoffs. I have San Francisco and the Dodgers making the playoffs.
But you have 2 unbelievable pitchers. Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke. Zach Greinke could hold down a rotation on his own. He doesn't have to be in number 2. And then you have Josh Beckett, a revitalized Josh Beckett, who just threw a no-hitter this year out of nowhere, to be honest.
Really?
And
the same Josh Beckett I knew from Boston?
Yes.
The same Josh Beckett that had the beer and chicken incident here?
Yes. But
just threw a no-hitter?
Yeah.
But you look at all the pieces they have. You could say that they're Yankees West, to be honest, just with all the money they've spent on people like Adrian Gonzalez again and Hanley Ramirez.
Yankees West as in the most hated
one big piece that could put them over the edge right now is Matt Kemp. If Matt Kemp can refigure it out to being back where he was in 2011, 2012, that's one big piece. They can get that back.
Let's be honest, though. Rihanna ruined him. Before Rihanna, he was playing well. Then Rihanna happened. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Chris Brown. But Chris Brown, for other reasons that we will not talk about on this show. Look, I think the Dodgers are winning the division, but I think San Francisco is right there with them. And I think San Francisco, a team that has done very well in pitching, just like Atlanta, I think they will take the second wild card spot. And I don't really have many reasons for this. I just trust the Dodgers. I trust what they've done. I trust the money they've spent. Arizona, even though they're horrible, they're actually doing better now than they were doing before. So give them credit to a certain extent. They're 7-3 in the past 10.
Well, we're entering the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So still plenty of time.
There's still plenty of time. Plenty of baseball.
Let's take, for example, Toronto, who seem every year to do really well and then just drop off. Yeah, remember when they were at the top of their division just like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Now they're third. I mean, they're still within 3 games of the lead, but Baltimore's up there now. The Yankees are coming up. Let's not talk about the Red Sox right now because they're not doing too well. But even in this division, they're only 7.5 games back. Even though that's a pretty big number, it's not impossible. They could still make it all the way back, considering they are playing in the AL East, and all they need is for Baltimore and the Yankees and Toronto to revert back to how they've played for the whole rest of the year.
I remember the Red Sox, was it like a couple months ago or something, when they lost 10 games straight, and then they won 7.
Yeah, and to talk about that, they won 4 games in a row. They're 7-3. Tampa Bay has won 5 games in a row, so both those teams are riding hot. The Yankees are winning as well. Honestly, if any of these teams won the AL East, it wouldn't really surprise me. Because the AL East, it has a lot of big names, but it's been really bad this year.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of those divisions where it's so bad that anybody could win. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes it interesting.
And then you have the 2 key players that I think that really factor into this is Jose Bautista, if he can stay healthy, because he has a monstrous swing, yes, but that puts a lot of stress on his back. That could cause another injury, as he's been having lately. And then you also have Chris Davis, the home run king of last year. He's not hitting hot right now, but if he's shown signs of improvement. He's just not putting his head back. He's not keeping his eye on the ball when he swings it back, which causes him to pop it up. But if he can find that swing and hit it to the opposite field home runs like he used to be able to last year, I think the Orioles can get a powerhouse because they already have Nelson Cruz, who has just been on fire all year. In my opinion, he's an MVP candidate because he came in there and Chris Davis isn't doing so hot. You come in there and you're leading the team in home runs and you have all that.
Yeah, Nelson Cruz is a topic for another time because remember, this guy just came off a steroid suspension and then he plays better than he did before when he was on steroids. That's a whole other conversation. and this could very well turn into A-Rod 2.0.
It's possible.
But right now we can't really say anything because we are not Biochank's clinic and we don't have that information. But we wrapped up the NL. But really quickly, before we move on to our World Series pick, who do you think the best team in the NL is? We've just gone through it, and we already know Ryan. So, Ryan, who do you think the best team in the NL is?
Oh my goodness.
I'd say the Brewers.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I'm partly just because I'm a Brewers fan, but also I've looked at their stats, and I think that they're coming into their own.
Oh yeah, they're definitely getting a lot better. They've lost some steam. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games, which is not good. But as we said, baseball is a really unpredictable sport.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm not
games
saying the Brewers are the best in the NL, but I'm saying that they can improve to a higher position and possibly get into. Possibly get into maybe a World Series scenario.
Yeah, I would possibly with my pick in a perfect world would right now be the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're just stacked in almost every department. But then when they get into their first series, I think they'll be going into a 5-game series. In the first series, they'll crush because they have the best pitching staff. But when you get into that 7-game series, that's always really tricky and really dicey when you get into that because it always gets dicey there. But I think that when they get to a 7-game series, it'll get a little bit dicey on the back end of the rotation.
Yeah.
Back into the rotation for the Dodgers. But right now, I would pick the Dodgers to come out of the NL as the champions.
Here's the thing. Second week season, I say Washington, Oakland. Why change it now? Both teams have done perfectly fine. I'm sticking with that. Oakland, of course, looks like the best team in baseball.
And they can make two.
But so Washington is my pick from the NL. If I pick them at the beginning and they're still in contention, Jake does this a lot. He doesn't like to change his pace, and this isn't even the playoffs yet. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how the season's panned out. And for me, Washington hasn't done anything wrong. They're what are they? They're 53-43. They have the best win percentage in baseball. I mean, not in baseball, in the NL. So that is. I
was like, wait, I thought
that is definitely Oakland. Oakland by 70 or 0.070 percentage points. So Washington, no reason to change it. They've got amazing pitching. Washington's my pick.
I think the scariest thing about all this is that Oakland can get better. They can trade for David Price. That's open. It's between them and the Cardinals, I think. Between that. For David Price, who's been on absolute fire right now. And they're looking for a second baseman. And to be honest, they're a franchise of second chances. Dan Uggla just got released. And, to be honest, if he can produce what he used to produce, because if he goes to Oakland and he does what he used to do, which I think he can do, because the second chance, that it seems like Josh Donaldson is a player. He got a second chance and he made so much out of it.
Yeah, now he's an MVP candidate.
Exactly.
That guy plays MVP numbers. Here's the scariest thing for me. We have no idea what's going to happen.
Exactly.
There is an endless amount of possibilities. As we saw last year, everybody said Dodgers, Tigers probably favorite. Dodgers, Red Sox. Red Sox made it, but most people didn't say it.
Speaking of the Red Sox, what do you think? Do you think they'll improve? Or do you think that they'll just spiral down out of control?
No, they're improving. And it wouldn't surprise me if they won their division, frankly. I won't pick them, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, because especially with me living in Boston and dealing with the Red Sox phenomenon and everything, it just seems like the past couple weeks they gave up. It seems like they were waving the white flag. They pinch hit.
They should keep doing that. They've been winning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they pinch hit Mike Carp. They put Mike Carp.
He's starting now too. He started today
for Xander Bogaerts. Not to mention that they released AJ Pierzynski.
They've been winning since they released him. So the question is AJ a bad influence? Though I love AJ because he played on the White Sox.
He'll come back. He'll come back to Minnesota for a tour.
Okay, well, we got to go to the person who hasn't talked at all. The Dodgers fan. Do you think the Dodgers are the best team in the NL?
NL.
It's really difficult here. I think I missed the AL Central a bit, so I'll just put my 2 cents in. I think Pittsburgh's going to win that division. I think they like that they've seen what they're doing. St. Louis will get the wild card. Which leaves the Dodgers and the Giants trading blows right now. And I really am... I have to admit, I'm a bit of a pessimist when it comes to the Dodgers. I don't know why. I'm a very optimistic guy when my sports teams, except for the Dodgers. However, I really like what I've seen from them this year. And what I've seen from them, by the way, is 2 no-hitters, because that's the only games I can watch. Thanks, Time Warner Cable. But that's for a different time. I had to do my daily rare with that. I still think that the Dodgers have shown that they have winning ways. They defeated the Cardinals tonight. The Giants have been a very inconsistent team. And I think, frankly, the Dodgers have more talent than they roster. So the Dodgers will win their division.
Jake, I have a theory for why you're pessimistic. Maybe because every time the Dodgers start to look good nowadays, they lose. Is that a possibility, Jake? Do you think that's a valid possibility?
Yeah. We're like the opposite of the Red Sox.
We're gonna next show we'll have a counseling session with Jake to see why he's a pessimist about the Dodgers and get to his inner feelings. It'll be called Therapy with Jake and Noah.
So here's the deal, though. With the look at this though, Dodgers. I believe they have the best road record in baseball. They have the best road record.
Do you believe or you know?
In the NL, they have overall the best road record in baseball, except for the Detroit Tigers. We have 30 wins on the road, 21 losses. Detroit is 28-16. So we're very good on the road, but we have to learn to win games at home. I would commit the World Series.
There's one team that you can talk about, the Detroit Tigers. That road record that they have, that would really do them well in the playoffs. Because I don't think they'll have home field advantage like they have had in the past.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Really quickly, I picked them. Last year I did the same thing with the Dodgers and the Tigers, and that didn't turn out well for me. So picking Oakland and Washington for me, I'm very tempted to pick the Tigers again. Because now they're the team that nobody's seeing. They're the team that nobody thinks will win. And that gives them the best chance. St. Louis, it was all Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And all the Dodgers. The Tigers, for the Red Sox, it was all the Tigers. Mm-hmm. And they did it. And they said, nah, we'll win. And that's big.
Baseball's a really funny thing. It's like 2 years ago, Tigers were favorites for the last 2 years. And this year, everyone seems to be almost overlooking them.
Yeah, so we're going to...
So at the end of the day, the team I think is going to win the NL. Los Angeles Dodgers.
Okay, so really quickly, we'll go around. No really explanation because we got to move on. World Series, 2 teams in the World Series and your prediction. I'm going to stick with Oakland versus Washington, and unfortunately for the Washington Nationals, they're going to have to wait another year. Oakland gets that World Series for Billy Beane. Jake.
26 years after the Dodgers defeated the A's in the 1988 World Series, the Oakland A's exact their revenge in a fairly boring World Series. We don't say a chance. Oakland wins the World Series.
Greg.
I'll have to go with my heart right now. That'd be a great start. I really want to go with Oakland, along with right now. To be honest, I think the Giants could actually squeeze it out. I think that it's a possibility that the Giants will meet the Dodgers inside of the NL Championships, and then eventually the Giants will get back to the World Series. And then you can have a Bay World Series.
Ryan's not here right now, but as he said multiple times, his prediction is Milwaukee.
And that's it. Milwaukee's
Because
in
you
there.
know what?
Just Milwaukee.
Because you know what? If Milwaukee pulls it off, I'm going to be the one dancing around, going saying I called it.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely, obviously.
Like whatever.
Okay, well, those were our predictions. Baseball, we're going to wrap that one up, and now we're going on to football. College football, by the way. Lots to talk about here. So many predictions, and now it's going to be our first year in the playoff era. So much to talk about. Jameis Winston coming back to Florida State. It's probably, you could arguably say that it's one of the most stacked, returning amount of Heisman candidate quarterbacks that's ever been. Marcus Mariota, you have Brett Hundley from UCLA. So many names, so much stardom. Who wins the Heisman? We're going to talk about that. Noah, let's just start it off here. Rolling down your top 5 teams that you think that can contend for that first national championship under the playoff formula.
So I'm going to cut it down to 4 for you. Because these are the 4 teams I think will make the playoffs. Let's start with the defending champions, Florida State Seminoles. Now, will they lose a game? Yes. They will lose a game, and it will be the Clemson Tigers. The Clemson Tigers will exact their revenge behind freshman quarterback Deshaun Watson. Because you know what everybody said? Florida State doesn't have a chance because they have a freshman quarterback. That's also what they said about Texas A&M. Freshman quarterbacks have done well, and this guy is the top recruit coming to this year. I think he leads into him, but Florida State still gets their spot. They come in at number 4. That doesn't mean they're not going to win at all. That's the question, of course. Alabama gets back to that level. I think they finally have that year where they can go undefeated. And I think they're going to come out of... I think people are underrated. I think T.J. Yeldon has his Heisman level a year to lead that team to the 3rd spot. I think Ohio State gets number 2 because they're in an easy conference, which gives them... If them and Alabama could flip-flop, to be honest, it's still going to be a neutral site game either way. It's an easier conference, so they have a better chance of going undefeated. If a team in the Big Ten, if there are 2 win-loss teams, they won't make it. No Big Ten will team make it. And then, last but not least, I think the number 1 team, I think it's whoever wins Oregon, UCLA, will get the number 1 spot. And I think I'm going with Oregon here. I like Oregon to get the touchdown. I love Brent Hundley, to be honest, and I think Miles Jack is a phenomenal player. I think he actually has a chance to be a defensive Heisman this year. But I'm going with Oregon. And those are my 4 teams. To whittle it down, I think Oregon, Florida State, Mariota fails here. Jameis has his Heisman signature moment, even though it'll be decided by then. It'll be much too late. Mariota gets the Heisman, by the way. But Jameis Winston leads them to the win. In the end of the day, it's what's more important is who wins the national championship, not who wins the Heisman. Jameis Winston gets the win. Ohio State, Alabama, as much as I love to say Ohio State, unfortunately, Urban Meyer hasn't built that SEC defense yet. Nick Saban gets them to the final in a really great final. Another SEC versus SEC, or ACC final. Alabama versus Florida State. Why not? You know what? Jameis will be gone here, and after that, me personally, I think the dynasty falls apart. Florida State gets another title. If Jameis Winston stays, they've got a great shot of winning a couple more. But you know what? Jameis Winston may leave this year. They're going to take advantage of that. I think Florida State repeats as national champions this year. Greg?
I would definitely agree with you on the fact that I think that the Seminoles and that Alabama will make it back to the playoffs. I think that Ohio State will make it to the playoffs too. But as we saw last year with Auburn, anything, and I mean anything, could happen. I mean, you had so many lucky things, so many unbelievable things happen with Auburn that got them to the national championship, which makes me really think about my 4th pick for the tournament. That 4th pick, that's got to be tough because I want to go with Oregon, like you, but not as number 1. I want for being number 4, but I don't know if I can go with Oregon because I feel like there's something that's going to happen that's just going to either take Oregon out of it or there's going to be like something like an Auburn where they have like 2 unbelievable plays in 1 year that eventually bring them to a national championship, or this year it'd be the playoffs. So to be honest, right now, I'd go with. I'll stick with the Ducks. I'll stick with the Ducks, but my dark horse pick will be the Florida Gators.
Okay.
It's possible. I mean, if Auburn can have 2 miracle plays and make it to the national championship, I think Florida, who's been rebuilding after Tim Tebow left and after Percy Harvin left, I think that it's possible that they can make it to the tournament.
So whittle it down for us. Who are your final 2, and who do you think the national champion will be?
Final 2, I would have to go with, I think, just how the tournament will be set up, I think that it will end up being Alabama versus Ohio State. Because now I think in the end I will pick Alabama to win.
Is it my turn yet?
Jake, it is your turn. The UCLA fan is in the building. Will Brent Hundley and Miles Jack come through?
Top 4. Number 1. You know what? Alabama is the best team in the nation. They get the number 1 spot. There is just, you want to talk about how, we talked earlier about how difficult it is to really build a dynasty. Here you go. This is a dynasty. But we have seen in Alabama, there is a pedigree, there is a level of expectation there. They lost A.J. McCarron, they lost C.J. Mosley, but you know what? This is a fantastic team. I mean, look, we can see quarterbacks have a very solid training session. Alabama is going to be the number 1 team. Number 2, you know, Auburn troubles me right now with the issues that Nick Marshall has gone through. I don't know what's going on with them. I like what Ohio State is doing. I like what Oregon is doing. It's tough. I think it's really a race between those two teams. Of course, right there is Stanford. I'm going to give number 2 to the Oregon Ducks. I think that they're going to go undefeated until they get to that playoff. Oregon Ducks in the number 2 spot. Number 3 goes to Ohio State. Playing in the Big Ten, a fantastic team. They will come away with a victory, which means the 4th spot. Does it go to Stanford? Does it go to UCLA? Does it go to Auburn? Does it go to Florida State? I haven't mentioned Florida State yet, so I'm going to address this now. A sophomore slump for Jameis Winston, a team that finds that it has lost too much of its leadership. Florida State will not make the playoff. Florida State will not make the playoff. That's your bold prediction so far. So, who will take their place? Is it possible? 2 Pac-12 teams in the Final Four? Yes. The Stanford Cardinal will take the 4th and final spot in the playoff. It'll be very interesting to see how it goes down. So I'm assuming it's 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3.
No, it's 1 versus 7 and 9 versus 12.
You know, the NCAA is just a weird thing. You never know. Alabama versus Stanford. Well, it's your granddaddy's football, I guess. You gotta just watch, try to enjoy it. Alabama wins 18-15. 11 field goals total. 11. Alabama grinds it up, gets the win. And then Oregon versus Ohio State. Finally, one of these teams will break through. And sometimes loyalty pays off. Does that mean for Braxton or does it mean for Marcus Mariota? I'm leaving no one in suspense here. This one's for Carl. The Oregon Ducks in the championship game. Oregon, Alabama, finally. The day with destiny that we all waited for.
Okay. Well,
And no, we're not picking our champions.
Yes.
We're not picking our champions. No.
I thought
And
he
you'll
said
find
that.
out next time who wins.
Okay, just seriously, pick it quickly because we got to wrap up.
Oregon.
Okay.
thank you, Jake. Now we're going to show you a video of Brett
listen
Bielema,
to the video.
the former. Yes, we're going to listen to the video of Brett Bielema, the former Wisconsin coach, now coach at Arkansas, and his incredible talk about his players' incredible ass. There we go.
Here we go, guys.
Really big, like a defensive lineman. He's got an incredible ass. Really
Let's
big,
use that again.
like a defensive lineman. He's got an incredible ass.
Thank you, Brent. We all appreciate when you saw. Oh, that's my phone.
You heard that here.
That is the most.
And here's the quote below. Oh, it played again. Here's the quote below. If anyone knows asses, it's Brett Bielema.
Bielema.
Oh, Brett.
You know,
He has become my favorite coach. He will be now my ass scout.
Your ass scout.
your mask.
No, that's how they recruit players. He goes behind players. Can you turn around for me? Oh, that's a nice ass.
Yeah.
You're on my football team.
Do we got a booty?
Just hire a woman.
Just go to. Do we got a booty? No, he don't. You're out.
We'll see how Arkansas does this year with that theory.
Yeah, a lot of recruits with pet donkeys, and clearly this defensive lineman had the most magnificent ass of them all.
Well, with that, guys, we're going to wrap up our first episode here at the Boston Sports Camp, SBC Nation, as you could call it. Great job, guys. You did it well as our guest announcers, and we're hoping to hear more from you later on in the camp. If it's day 2 tomorrow, we're definitely going to have a show tomorrow. If it's at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, aka 7 o'clock Pacific Time, or if it's at 11. We never know. We'll let you know. We'll post on our Facebook page. But it's been a great first episode, and we'll be sure to have more this week. Looking forward to a great week in Boston. Peace out, everybody. Have a great night.
People seen it, but they just don't know.
What I told you, cutter.
People seen it, but they just don't know. People seen it, but they just don't know. People,
Let's go.
people seen it, but they just don't know.